Hi, it's Mr. Pattinson, and today we're going to look at two of the hand building forms that we are familiar with already. The pinch form and the slab form. The slab form is familiar to us from making tiles, but we're going to roll that slab form into a cylinder today in a few simple steps. The idea here is that the pinch and the cylinder form can work together, perhaps in a teapot, perhaps in something else. Let's see what happens. With a slab this big, a block that you have received from school, we're going to use about 3/4 of that, and I'll cut it down this way. With a clean wire, I've cut this much clay off of the top, and I'll set that aside. I may use that later, but for now, this is about what I'm going to need, because we're going to take this clay and a cardboard cylinder and wrap the clay around the cylinder after we create a slab. First of all, we're going to use this technique where we drop the clay and give it some direction as it is moved across the front of our body and stretched out on our clay board. You remember this from a previous lesson. When I want to get some height in another direction, I can pull the clay towards myself like this to get a little bit more height, and I can throw it that way too. So we're getting pretty close to what we need. For this project, we need a little bit of slip, a brush for our slip, our wooden sticks. They're becoming pretty familiar friends to us now. You might need a spray bottle and some kind of strong cardboard tube. We have a lot of these at school in the classroom. So if you don't have one at home, don't worry too much about that. We're going to take this slab and roll it so that it is consistently thick. So again, a couple of the sticks. Now this part's of some interest. This is one of the pinch pots that we made together in a previous video. This has been wrapped for about 2 weeks. And when I open it up, I see that it's still soft and pliable. In fact, it's completely workable. That's because the damp paper towels have trapped moisture into the clay. If the clay had any tendency to dry, moisture could be wicked from the paper towels back into the clay. And then some cling wrap over top closes it off to any draft or outside air. When clay's wrapped up like that, in fact, it's like having a little rain cycle inside the plastic bag. Now, off camera, I've rolled this down a little bit thinner than the height of 2 of our sticks. Not as thin as one, but I'm trying to guess the thickness of the pinch pot and match the thickness of the slab to the pinch pot. I think it's comparable, it's close. We'll set the pinch pot aside just for a couple of minutes away from the action. You need this tube. This tube is going to be the basis of the teapot. The chamber will be a cylinder shape. So we have a consistently thick slab. We have a pinch pot that is approximately the same thickness as the slab. This part is very simple. We take one of our green sticks and give ourselves a good straight edge. Now I'm using a clay knife here, like this, but you could use a kitchen knife or whatever you might have at home. Give yourself that straight edge. You can remove that clay for now, and then find a 90-degree angle along the bottom. I hope that's in the shot. But really all I'm doing is giving myself a straight edge along the bottom and a straight edge along the side. So the resulting piece is going to look like this. This clay is going to be rolled around the cardboard cylinder, and in order to do that, I want to make sure that the cylinder has a good fit with the straight edge along the bottom. Straight edge along the bottom of the cylinder, and then in one action, I roll the cylinder around, the clay around the cylinder, like this. All right. Now, I can hold it up to you so that you can see what has happened. I've rolled the clay all the way past the edge so that there's an overlap. That's good. We want that overlap. And we want the height that you see as well. Let's turn back to the overlap. You can mark this if you're particular about straight edges. You can mark a straight edge right along the seam where you see the overlap. I'm going to cut through on that seam all the way through to the cardboard cylinder. So with a good knife, if it's not perfectly straight, it doesn't matter because we're cutting through 2 layers of clay, and the fit on one side will fit the other side. You'll see this in a second. This is extra. I take that piece off the top and I allow that to roll open because, I'll do this flat, allow this to roll open because there's a piece inside here. We take this piece out, and now what we have should be a perfect fit around the cylinder. Roll this up and bring it together. This is brand new clay. So you can push it around to the point where you can't see the seam anymore. What I do recommend is that you open this up and score and slip it. Okay, anything that you have that will support the scoring. Going to roughen up that edge, going to roughen up this edge. I'm going to reach for my slip and my paintbrush. I'll roll this back up this way and put some slip along here, and then bring this side up, or leave it where it is and put some slip around here, just like that. So we'll bring this back up. This can go around here. This will meet up with that, and we'll have our fit along the seam where I can push these pieces together and smooth them down. The pieces that I've cut away from the cylinder can be joined together. Remember, they're brand new clay as well, and I can push them back together and be quite confident that they're going to be strong. I don't think they need to be scored and slipped, but I will push them back together like this. I'll flip them over, drag my fingers across the seam. I'm actually making a base now for the cylinder itself. So drag across this way. You can make it as perfect or as imperfect as you like. But this big piece of clay that looks like a fillet of fish is going to be the base. Now underneath here, you see the cylinder and the clay wrapped around it. We're going to stand this up on top of the fish fillet, just like that. I can go back to my knife and trace the bottom of the cylinder on the fish fillet, like that. Hasn't been joined, I didn't score and slip it, but I can see that this is going to be the base of my cylinder. I'll cut this out with a knife. Okay, so I'll cut around like this. That was a bigger fish fillet than I need, but I may be making more than one cylinder at this point. I'll set that aside for now. This is going to be the bottom of the cylinder. I'm going to score around the outside, the perimeter of that base, the fish fillet, like this. Okay, and I'm going to hold my cylinder and score the base of that as well. Okay, so I'll roughen this up. You'll work more carefully than this. I'm going to put some slip along here at the base of my cylinder. And I'm going to put some slip here. Before I join them together. Okay, here goes. We're going to line this up like this. I realize it might not be the best angle, so I'll hold this up like that, and my base is going to get joined onto the cylinder, the vertical walls of the cylinder, and I'm going to use my finger and thumb to drag clay across that open seam. Okay, my cylinder has a base now. It's well joined. I can perfect it as we go along, but I'm going to put it down here right now to show you that this is still rough at the top. So I'm going to try and measure this off as evenly as possible. A ruler will do. Okay, if I want, say I want 8 inches, I'm going to mark this in a few spots. What's 8 inches, Mr. Pattinson? About 20 centimeters. Okay, so about 20 centimeters here, all the way around. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I do want a relatively flat rim because I'm still thinking about that pinch pot over there. That may or may not be in the shot. Okay, so I'm going to cut right through, roll like this, roll it again like that. Okay, so this piece comes off like that. You can see I have a pretty good rim, not bad at all. This piece, because I've wrapped it with newspaper, slides right out. If you don't wrap it with newspaper and your clay begins to tighten on this cylinder, these are more than just paper towel rolls. They're really heavy duty rolls. And if your clay shrinks down on them, it's a problem. You have to sort of unwind it from the inside. That's a nuisance and not very much fun. Again, take this clay, set it aside. You might use that for something special, or if you don't, you can just re-wedge it. So now we have a cylinder and we have a pinch pot. With any luck, look at that, right? We have walls and we have the pinch pot that sits on top. This is your opportunity to reach inside as well and drag your finger across the inside of the pot to strengthen the seam. If you can't reach all the way to the bottom, and it would be pretty surprising if you could, you can use any kind of clay tool, a pencil, a ruler, anything that you can put a little bit of pressure on to drag clay across that seam to make it stronger. Okay. You can decide if this pinch pot is a lid to this form. If it is, you could put a few small feet inside that fit inside this rim so that it wouldn't fall off. Or if you wanted to get fancy, you could build a small ledge around the top of the pot that would support a lid or a dome like that. So this actually fits inside this form. Okay, I'm not sure what we'll use this form for, but we can always cut a hole through the pinch pot if we want a smaller opening, or we can cut below the pinch pot if we want a larger top that sits on a shorter barrel. You can decide. In the end, after these pieces have been worked together, you have a form that is a cylinder and a pinch on top. It's a little bit floppy because I've taken that cylinder out. As it dries, I would recommend leaving the cylinder in at least for part of the class or part of the studio session that you're having at home. Anyway, I hope this helps. If you turn this into a teapot, remember to put a few holes in the side of the cylinder before you put your spout on so that the tea will be filtered through the holes and actually come out the spout. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed that.